Hello, I'm Daniel Kremer, and though I'd like to open this particular episode with a Hitchcock impression, it's not a voice that I'm terribly good at, though I can certainly try if you promise not to cringe too much. Good morning, I'm Alfred Hitchcock. This bloke who's pathetically attempting to impersonate me thinks that my film Topaz is a misunderstood picture. Told you it was bad, but hey, I tried. A for effort. Probably got a little better more towards the end than at the beginning. And yes, Topaz is misunderstood and much too often written off in my book. Sure, most cinephiles love that incredible aerial shot of the purple dress splaying out onto the floor like a puddle of blood, but there's far more here to appreciate than just that. And I'm going to be breaking it down, or at least I'm going to try to. I watched this one a lot because I feel like it's a special secret treasure trove that only I and a few other obsessive weirdos like me know about. So here's Alfred Hitchcock's Topaz from 1969, and of course, Alfie, Sir Hitchcock, appears himself in this trailer.
Does the word topaz mean anything to you?
What is Topaz?
A story of espionage in high places.
Yes, I am indeed one of those fabled Topaz cheerleader dudes. When Hitchcock made Topaz, he had come off directing Sean Connery, Paul Newman, and Julie Andrews on a pair of pictures that had flopped at the box office, those two being Marnie in 1964 and Torn Curtain in 1966. Quite conspicuously, Topaz features no such recognizable names, at least to the normies. Nerds like myself can appreciate Topaz cast members like Frederick Stafford, Michel Piccoli, Philippe Noiret, John Forsythe, Roscoe Lee Brown, Karin Dor, and John Vernon. John Vernon. That guy was in everything from Point Blank to Killer Clowns from Outer Space. In 1967, Hitchcock had started work on an ultimately unfinished project called Kaleidoscope, about a serial killer / sex criminal. Hitchcock would later take many of the ideas from Kaleidoscope and reconstitute them for Frenzy, the film that he made after Topaz in 1972. But Hitchcock was in an experimental mood when he came to direct Topaz, from the novel by Leon Uris. And the film is a lot more subtle than many of his other contemporary works, but the subtleties still have a Hitchcock signature. I personally love that opening sequence with the Russian agent defecting with his family. It's nearly 15 minutes of perfectly calibrated tension, with barely any spoken dialogue. And look at that Juanita death scene. Not just that fabulous aerial shot that I mentioned with the purple dress, but the whole sequence that surrounds it. Stunning. There are also little coups of powerful framing and staging. For instance, the shot when the Russian defector is first asked about Topaz. Look at the eye line shift there that Hitch orchestrates. And there's the whole New York Embassy sequence, which is preceded by that scene in the florist shop that stages important dialogue left silent and unheard behind glass. As an experiment, it's compelling, and in general it just works for me. As film critic and historian Leonard Maltin once observed, quote, "This wasn't a mainstream slam dunk type of movie," end quote. Indeed, it is something more risky. It might also be Hitch's only real epic, clocking it at 144 minutes, at least in its present extant version. The film doesn't really finish with a grand set piece or a big flourish, as it's not really in its design, and that's likely what ignited audience furor against it when it was released. We all know that American audiences tend to get impatient with slow build pacing, particularly in stories as dense and detail-laden as this one. Pleasing a general audience was likely never in the cards for it. But it has picked up some admirers over the years, and has reversed some of its bad reputational juju. It does remain a bit stigmatized, though, and I think if people can accept that this is not your standard, typical Hitchcock outing, and to stow away any number of preconceived notions about what it should be rather than what it is, there's so much to appreciate in this picture. I rank it higher than probably anyone because I feel like it gives me something new each time I see it. One can easily imagine Truffaut watching Topaz and getting a charge out of seeing actors he knew from his own cinematic ecosystem put to work in a film by his dear friend and longtime idol.
Topaz.